shortly. Now, we're going to go back to Moscow to continue our discussion with Julia to get some clarity on the Deputy President's trip to Moscow there. Julia, apologies. It's all happening this evening, as you would expect in a live environment. Now, the Deputy President, as I said earlier, is going to hit the ground running tomorrow because, of course, there is that meeting scheduled with President Putin.
Yes, indeed. The meeting is scheduled in Moscow on 15th of May, and of course, David Mabuza, who is the newly specially appointed special envoy to Russia, he will be traveling for talks with Vladimir Putin. So we'll be getting more information about what exactly they will discuss. But of course, bilateral relations between Russia and South Africa are likely to be high on the agenda. And of course, both countries, they want to continue growing their ties, their established ties. And of course, they will be discussing their relations within the framework of BRICS, of which both countries are part of.
A little earlier, we were talking about the relations between Pretoria and Moscow, and it's been an interesting relationship to watch develop in recent years with intriguing twists, particularly around a potential Russian-led nuclear build program for South Africa. Might we get some clarity on where that stands?
Well, indeed, yes, there were talks about this in the past, but of course we will have to wait and see. For now, when this important meeting between Vladimir Putin and David Mabuza happens, we might be hearing more about that program. But of course, all of that is still to come in the future following their talks in Moscow on 15th of May.
South Africa, of course, as you'll know, is lobbying for a UN Security Council seat, and Russian support, I imagine, will be crucial in that endeavor.
Yes, indeed. Well, Russia is one of the permanent members of the UN Security Council, of course, but it's not quite clear at the moment just how Russia will be voting in that. But of course, as I mentioned, Russia and South Africa enjoy good relations, so it's likely that Moscow will lend its support to South Africa in this case. But we'll have to wait and see exactly how Russia will vote.
Julia, it all comes as tensions in the Middle East seem to have ramped up with the U.S. opening its new embassy in Jerusalem. And we've seen, of course, a number of Palestinians shot with live ammunition by the Israeli army. What's the reaction in Moscow to what's been going on in Israel today?
Yes, indeed. Well, actually, Russia has condemned the U.S. embassy move to Jerusalem. Actually, Moscow said that that move worsens Israeli-Palestine conflict. And even earlier in May, Russia's Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, he held talks with the UN Special Coordinator for the Middle East peace. And indeed, Moscow has expressed its concern about the move and has condemned the move, saying that it will make the conflict there even worse.
Where does this leave relations between Moscow and Washington? Because, of course, we also saw last week President Donald Trump pull America out of the Iran deal, a deal and a move that, that Moscow has criticized.
Yes, indeed. Well, Russia said it was disappointed at the U.S. decision to withdraw from the Iranian nuclear deal, because Russia was one of the signatories to this deal, along with other countries like Germany, the United Kingdom, France and China. And indeed, ever since it's happened now, Moscow has reaffirmed its readiness to stick by the nuclear agreement without the United States in it. Russia has actually hosted several figures in relation to the Iran deal in Moscow. Today, it has hosted the head of the IAEA, that is the International Atomic Energy Agency, and also Russia's foreign minister held talks with Iran's foreign minister in Moscow. So indeed, Russia is reaffirming its readiness to stick by the agreement.
All right, we'll leave it there. It comes, of course, as President Putin's power seems firmly entrenched in Russia for the moment. And indeed, the World Cup is due to be scheduled in Russia in the coming month, with Moscow putting its best face for the world.